Sorry, gotta get over. Get mad. I just had to get over. Let's see if anybody's up and about this morning. This is what Cleveland, Ohio looks like early in the morning. Right here. Into there. I have just picked up a load. Supposed to pick it up at noon. I decided to drive over here early. Got here at 9, as per the usual. The load was ready, which is cool. Makes my job easier. And I am now heading southbound. Uh, this company has kept me running pretty good recently. I mean, I'm literally making a delivery. I'm driving, let's say 300 miles, and all of a sudden they've got a call. Okay, we got your next run. That's cool. So on the way over here to Cleveland yesterday, I got the call for this one, and the load I had on board to at 8 in the morning, and I got the customer's number. I had to call 4 times to get somebody to answer, and I was able to deliver my package last night, so I didn't have to worry about it today. So this was a noon pickup, so I got up at my leisure and motored over here. Got there about 9, and it was ready. So I am going to Bluffton, Ohio, which is over here on the east side. Whoa, oops, 1,800 pounds. I can feel it back there. So come over. All right, coming over, and we're over. Got to go down here and get on 271 Columbus South, post rush hour, which helps quite a bit. Wow. This is 77 South out of Cleveland. Nice time of the day. I'm going to be drilling west here pretty quick, so that puts the light in the right place, which I prefer for driving. I had a noon pickup today, 1,800 pounds of some kind of machine parts. And using history as a guide, I got there early and they was already ready, which it usually is. So I went in there and grabbed it. So we're heading to Bluffton, uh, Ohio, which is over on the eastern side of the state right now. I was thinking about being a solo driver out here, and there are people that are social butterflies that need to have people around them, and there's people who don't mind being by themselves. And I kind of swing both directions. I was a commercial pilot for a long time, and I spent a tremendous amount of time by myself. And I am trying to read this. Somebody says hi. I can't read it. The lighting's a little weird. But I spent a big chunk of my flying career by myself, and at Ola turning, and I don't mind being isolated from people. It doesn't bother me, but some people it's not really their thing. There was a kid out here a while back. He started making videos, and young guy, early 20s, and he went out and bought a brand new Mercedes Sprinter van, and I don't mean a cheap one. I mean one of the big ones. And he had it outfitted, and he was probably into it for $75,000. And this kid started shooting videos talking about the business and the industry and blah blah blah. All the stuff was on. He lasted 3 weeks, and then he made a video and he said, "Well, I don't like being on the road. I don't like being by myself for long periods of time. Kind of, sell that company." Anyway, he said, "Okay, I'm gonna sell my van. Good luck buying a brand new vehicle and trying to unload it a month later. Good luck." So, but that kid, it just some people this type of work isn't for them. I doesn't bother me in the slightest. I'm okay with it. There are people I've only met one so far. They run teams. You have two people. Well, this van is not that big, and there's not a lot of real estate in here, so I'm not really sure how two people function inside an area this small. I mean, it's crowded for me, but the idea of having another person in here, like, okay, I'm good. I'll just do this on my own. It just doesn't seem to work out unless you get one of the biggest fans and you have it set up specifically for that. Which, again, I don't know how you would do it, but some people do. I dropped my load yesterday. I went to a pilot flying J that I've been at a few times here on South Central Cleveland. Colgate Park's a nice place. Got some great grass. And a guy pulled in next to me. He backed in. He's driving a one of the big Ford Transits, the tall, long model. And I started talking to the guy. He was asking about my solar panels because I had set them out on the lawn. And we started talking. And this guy had this big van, and he did refrigeration stuff, which I've never seen a reefer unit, but a reefer unit on a Sprinter van, which I've never seen. I didn't know that was a thing. He showed me how they go in and they put something on the walls in it, and they make the walls really thick, and the backboard was really thick, and it had an air conditioner, a refrigeration unit up on the roof. And I'm checking out this thing, and I said, "Well, what's it? You can't buy this like this. How much time, money, energy does it make to build this?" And the guy said the bill for the air conditioning for the refrigeration aspect of it was $40,000. Ouch! So you pay 50 G's for your van, then you got to drop another 40 into it to make it a reefer. But he showed me one of his. Oops, I heard that. Somebody's taking pictures. He showed me his latest load, and he was delivered seafood. He goes and picks up from the supplier, and he goes to these restaurants, and he showed me that he went 99 miles total driving. He had to stop a few times, but he got paid $800. So the guy's making $8 a mile to move seafood. And I was like, that's a pretty good profit margin. that's a that's a decent amount of money to be making, but your get-in price, you're setting up your vehicle price. It's like, geez. And what I liked about this guy is he was from Iraq, and he migrated legally to the United States. He said it was in 2005. He moved here, and his wife came with him. And he's been here 20 years, set up his own business. This is his second van. He's got a driver. What's that say? Do? I keep feeling this. Reply to me. Reply to you how? Sky Kids fans. I don't know what that is. Uh, he's got two teenage kids here, and recently, within the last few months, he went on a trip. His first time back to Iraq to check it out. And he goes, "I didn't realize how Americanized I've become." He's a legal American citizen now. And he goes, "Because I'm looking at the way people do things in Baghdad, and then he said it made me angry." Because there's plenty of money floating around. It's just no one's taking care of anything. Because everything's just crumbling. He goes, which is sad. And he said he was talking. I got a cop sneaking up behind me. Hold on a second here. There, tailgate, dude. He said, I had a cop right in my ass for some reason. Yeah, go speeding. Don't worry about it. And no, that's not the police baggage. That's just an asshole. Never mind. Anyway, uh, he said he didn't realize how Americanized he had become because he didn't like the way people did things. He bumped into an old friend of his, and they were standing in front of his little shop, and the guy was drinking out of a container. And when he was done drinking and emptied it, he threw it on the ground, just pitched it on the ground. And he says, "What's wrong with you?" And the guy was like, "What? You're just throwing garbage on the ground?" And it dawned on him that that's what they do over there. They literally throw trash on the ground and nobody cares. He said he's trying to think back. He says, "Yeah, that's just the way things are done." And he says, "That's not the way we do it over here." He's adjusted to not being, just dismissive of the environment and whatnot. He's got two daughters. He goes, they can speak Iraqi because we speak to them in language. He goes, they've never been here, and they don't really have a desire to go here because they've never been. And he said there's really nothing here for them. But he said he really likes the mindset of how people are in the United States, the difference and just the way they do business. And we talked about that. And I talked about a friend of mine years ago in the 80s lived in, I think it was Brazil or Argentina. I think it was Brazil. He said that you remember the old air hammer, Volkswagen Bugs with that air cooled engines, the old school ones. They actually made those until 2004 down there. So those kind of vehicles were everywhere. and they would send away for engines because the engines wear out, and they would send away for rebuilt motors. It's like, well, why doesn't somebody just build them here? Well, it's not that big of a deal. Overhauling an engine is, doable, and overhauling the engine that goes into a Volkswagen Bug is ridiculously simple. I did it as a teenager. So he leased a building and hired some guys that didn't know how to work on vehicles. And he said he just did an assembly line like World War II, where you give each person a specific job, how to overhaul it. Here, this guy takes it apart. This guy, you know, hones out the inside of the cylinder. This guy puts the parts together, and it goes down an assembly line, and it comes out the end. It's a rebuilt motor. Everybody had their one job, and he said he got it set up, and as fast as he could build the motors, people bought them. There were people standing in line, so he expanded and hired more people. Each person doing it one step. Assembly line, it's like World War II production in the United States. And he said, as fast as I could put them out, eventually he had a city block in this town. He said it was a 2-story building, city block, hired a whole bunch of people and was punching out these motors as fast as they could build them. And he said if somebody would have gone across the street and built an identical factory to mine, it wouldn't have hurt my business because that's the demand was so high. And he said it was a really weird experience that nobody else down there had the mindset, the business mindset to do what he was doing. And eventually he sold the business and he left, and he made good money off it. And that's what this guy I didn't catch his name, saying is people, different parts of the world think differently. We just, we don't see the world through the same eyes. And I've always said one of the biggest fallacies of the American societal ideas that, we go into these foreign countries and we try to help them in a certain way or whatnot. And you got to realize that they don't see the world the way we see the world. And we just assume they do, and they don't. They have a different view of things. And the first time I ever heard somebody say that was about the Vietnam War. And it was like, you see that guy out there plowing that field with his mustox. He doesn't care who's in charge. It's not going to change his lifestyle one bit. Doesn't matter what government, who's got elected, care. Has no effect on him whatsoever. Well, that's what I was learning to listen to him, and he said that the fact that he's lived there and now he's here, he can see the massive difference in the mindset of society and how weird it was foreign for him to go to the country he's from until he was about 30 years old. And now these Americanized, he's like, wow, I can see the problem here. Yeah, I got a turn clicking up. Here we go. Excitement. Woo! Change lanes. But like I said, if you ever plan on getting into this line of work, being an expediter, and if you've never done this kind of work or never been isolated from people for long periods of time, instead of coming out here and spending the money and buying a vehicle, become a fleet driver. This guy that I was talking to from Iraq, he had 2 vans. He had a guy that drove his other van. Drive somebody else's vehicle. You're not going to make as much money, but you're going to get out here and you're going to put your finger in the pie. You're going to stick your toe in the pool, as they say. And you're going to learn, what it's like to do this job, because you may come out, you may hate it. I wouldn't call this high stress. I wouldn't call it difficult. It's time consuming and it keeps you away from home. So try it out, try it on, before you jump in head first. That's what I'm saying. Because that kid that dropped that money on that brand new, super expensive van, and this is just me talking. If you're going to do this, you're going to don't buy a Mercedes. The simple fact that it has an M in the title makes it super expensive. Just the price, the parts, everything. And it's no better or worse than any other van. It's no more reliable or less reliable than any other van. It's just way more expensive. And the Germans are famous for over-engineering things. That's kind of their mantra. They did it in World War II. They built tanks. They were wonderful pieces of machinery and very precise, but this is something that's going to get blown up. So why you're losing so much sleep over how pretty it is. Whereas the United States, a Sherman tank was pretty simplistic. And fairly crude in its design. Oof, I'm ready. I am on. What am I on? I don't know what I'm on. Anyway, I'm going 50 miles down this road, and I thought I'd stream this morning because the sun's behind us. But this is just south of Cleveland, and we're heading southwest bound right now. All right, this is going to be weird, but I actually have emptied out my water bottles. So I need to pull in here and reload my water bottles. I know it's going to be a little time consuming, and I apologize, but I have to bail for just a second. I'm picking up weeds. That guy's picking up weeds. So give me a moment. For those of you overseas, this is what they put. These rest areas are on the highway, on the interstates. It's basically a place to get out and use the restroom, walk around a little bit. I'm going to hope they have the ability. I've never been here before. About to find out. This is an Ohio rest area. If everybody hang on 1 second, I'm going to run in and refill my big water bottle, and I will be right back. Don't go anywhere. Don't break anything, but I got to fill this up. Some of these rest areas have well water, and that's horrible. Got that bleh taste to it. All right, we're back. Second here. Gotta get my readers back on. Hey, bud, I'm back. Sorry, had to bail out here. My water bottles collection was empty. Now, this is a random rest area here in Ohio. We're just south of Cleveland. Alrighty, working our way back out. Yeah, I was talking earlier. This company, July was kind of a slow month. We didn't do a lot of driving, a lot of loads. For whatever reason, July slowed down. August was busy. September was busy. It's continuing. The last week or so, I'm getting a load and I'm making a run up halfway there, and they call me with the next one, which I prefer, to have them stacked up. And the load I had yesterday, I got an RV behind me, and he's got his landing gear down. He's driving down the highway, dragging his landing gear. That's not a good idea. Anyway, they had this load to be delivered this morning, and then a pickup here supposedly at noon. So I called the customer because I was in the area, and I was able to deliver yesterday afternoon to get that one in the done category. And then I went and slept until I woke up. And I went to the noon pickup today at 9 o'clock, and it was ready, which is pretty normal. So I got loaded here a few hours early, which means I'm going to get there a few hours early, which means I get to get this off and get back on the board for my next load, which is the whole point of this job, is to get back on the board in a hurry. Yeah, there's an RV back here, and one of his landing gear is dangling down. See it underneath. Wow. Surprised you didn't hear that hitting the ground. Anyway, that's the excitement for today. I wanted to stream this morning because the sun's behind us, which is nice. And this is what the roads look like. Is anybody tuning in from overseas? Kind of curious. Because that's one of the main reasons people come on here is to see the terrain and stuff. And this is, I guess, is it fall officially yet? October 2nd. I don't know. But here at some point in the near future, all these trees are going to change color. There's going to be browns and golds and yellows and stuff. And it'll be like that for a short period of time. It looks really cool. And I'm hoping to get a chance to film that when it happens. Gas is a little pricey on this side of the world. I was getting it for $2.50 down by Alabama, and it's closer to $3 up here. That's my mileage doing it. 19.7. I have a 1,800-pound load in the back of here. One big crate full of machine parts. That's what I'm dragging down the road. Oh, that guy in the RV is kind of creeping up on me. I'm staring at him in the mirror. Oh, traffic's adjusting. Gonna go. Come on, dude. Yeah, my parents had a one of these giant RVs, like the one that's following me right now, the big boxy ones. They went all over the United States. They spent a lot of time, bunch of time up in Canada. I mean, they'd be gone for months. They got it out of their system. The RV'd for quite a few years. There's a time you do it and a time you don't. Always be careful out there on those highways. Oh, well, duh, yeah, Randall. There's a bunch of weird stuff that happens, and all you got to do is play around on YouTube if you want to see how stupid people can get on the roads. I've seen some videos of some catastrophic accidents, easily preventable catastrophic accidents. Okay, I'm trying to get back to my free speed here. Hold on a sec. But I'm going downhill. Uh, those crossovers in the middle of the highway, the ones that say you can't use this, it's for emergency vehicles like fire trucks and whatnot. Some woman came. I got someone trying something here. Some woman came shooting down the on ramp, cut across 4 lanes of traffic straight, slammed on the brakes, and decided to make a 90-degree turn at one of those to turn around and go back the other way. I mean, come to a dead stop to make it's literally a 90-degree turn at highway speeds. Of course, didn't take into account that there was an 18-wheeler in the far left lane. And she slams on the brakes to make the turn, and they're very fortunate they had nobody in the back seat because the entire back end of the car ended up in the back seat. And it blew the doors open, and the whole car was just absolutely destroyed. And then when they pulled over and stepped out because they didn't have to open the door because the door got open for them, she's just looking around like, "Why did you do that?" Like it's his fault. Chick, no, honey, that was on video. Randall, where are you? Where are you currently? Where are you tuning in from? So 1, 2 blocks in front of me, Indiana. So truck fell asleep. Put head on. Ouch! Ouch! There's a. I don't really mess with it anymore, but I am a retired cannonballer. And when COVID happened, I made my run under normal circumstances before COVID, right before COVID, a month earlier. But when COVID happened and everybody got off the highways, a bunch of guys did a cannonball. I'm not going to call it cheating. I'm going to call it its own category. North Central Alabama. All right, Central North Alabama. Gotcha. Bayhoff. All right. Yeah, I was just down there a couple of days ago in Alabama, but the roads were open. There were no police on the roads, and it was just a free for all. And I watched some guys. They were using the Glimpse app where you're like a witness to their drive. It shows how fast they're going. And these guys were winding their cars up to terminal velocity and leaving it there because there were no cars on the road. Versus when I did my cannonball, there was bumper to bumper traffic, it seemed like. But these guys had a spotter they didn't need, but a spotter in, I want to say, Ohio. And it's in a Mercedes. It was a high end Mercedes. And the guy that was doing the run was in a Volkswagen Jetta or Passat, or was it Passat? And they had cameras front and rear in the Mercedes, and they got a mile or so ahead of him, and they pulled off in a well lit area, flipped on their flashers, and they jumped out to film the guy go by. Okay, last Tennessee exit south. Okay, yeah, I was just down there. I just went up 65 just a couple days ago. Went down and came back up again. Went down Friday, came back Monday. But they're on the side of the road, and like you're saying, a truck driver, because they kind of loosened up the truck driving rules during COVID. They let drivers go beyond their normal work hours, apparently. And a truck driver came along and drifted off the road and hit this vehicle with all its flashing lights. The guys, it's all on video, and they literally jumped over the guardrail, and this guy blasted into him and just demolished this very expensive, very nice car because he fell asleep. And it finished the car off, and they caught it on video. I mean, it was a video, not only handheld, but the video in the car filmed it. As he came up behind him, and it's blam. And then he ended up crossing over the highway and flipping over. The Passat pulled up and started slowing down, and they're on a handheld radio, and they said, just go, just go, just go. And the guy went through the wreckage and took off to finish his run. But yeah, I know about people falling asleep behind the wheel, which I don't get that. When you're nodding off, that's something, we're losing our lane here. Something people need to take into consideration. If you're nodding off, think of your body as a house. It's got little light switches on. And as your body starts to shut down, it's like you're walking around flipping all the light switches off. And when you're nodding off, that's the last light bulb in the house. And you're fighting to keep that last bulb lit. The rest of you your body is completely shut off. And as you sit there and fight that one light bulb, you're already asleep. You're not acknowledging it. You need to get off the road at that point. Or stop doing what you're doing. They're doing this for what, trash pickup? Everybody's getting off. Everybody, there we go. All right. So we get back up to speed. So wow, those codes didn't last long. Our current trip is taking us to Bluffton, Missouri. Well, correction, Bluffton, Ohio. It's over on the eastern side. 24, okay, I'm headed from, that's what it was in Cleveland, Castle, and Franklin Park, Illinois. Okay, keep going. Okay, you driving a real truck? Oversized? You're talking about oversized loads. Do you remember about a year and a half ago, a 350,000-pound load in Belton, Texas, or Temple, one of the, I can't remember the name, which town it was, rolled off one of those super extendo trailers and crushed a pickup truck? Do you have any memory of that? It was all over the news. It was like a tank for like a processing, but they had to pick up that driver with a spoon. That particular wreck in Temple, I think it was, but you know what the one I'm talking about? It was one of those oversized loads that has a trailer that goes on forever, and you can't even count the tires. There's so many wheels on it because it's got the load spread like all over the countryside. Was that the same one you're talking about? It was either Belton or Temple. I can't remember which, where it was happened. Is that a lane? That's a lane. I'm taking it. Okay, you've been out of the game. Well, what happened was I was flying. That was the tail end of my flying career, and I was flying the medical helicopter. They called us for the wreck, and they said, what's the location? And they literally said, take off from the airport and look directly to your west, because it was, I want to say, as the crow flies, a third of a mile from the airport. So we took off in it was a Bell 407 I was flying, and turned around, I was right there, and I landed. And what had happened was one of the people coming to work was actually behind his vehicle going like 30 miles an hour. It turned into the airport. And this guy had to get up on the road to go over a bridge because they're kind of driving halfway off the road. It was so big that they go, you get, you miss the road, but then you don't. It's kind of a double-edged sword. But this 350,000-pound separator tank was on there, and they blocked traffic. They had the pilot cars, and they had a guy on a motorcycle, pilot motorcycle, I guess. So they had stopped traffic, and this truck was going about 30, and he rolls up on the road with this big ass trailer that went on for days. And some dude came the other direction, 2-lane road. He's doing 60. He sees the flaggers, he sees traffic stop, and he decides that this doesn't apply to me, and he just swerves over into oncoming lane, which is blocked, and just blows by the flagger. In the middle of all this, the guy on the motorcycle was turning around, sees this dude coming at him at 60 miles an hour, and he swerves so he doesn't get hit. The guy driving the truck stabs the brakes because he basically cut in front of him. Hey, Butters. And the momentum of 350,000 pounds is not going to be stopped by the biggest chains you could ever find. And the chains broke, the load shifted, and rolled off the truck and landed on the trailer and landed on top of this guy's car, this pickup truck. And I had a bunch of photographs up close to this. And his wife and his son were on the right side of the truck, and they were gone. And the truck stopped where his right elbow was. It was just flat. And the only reason he was alive was the guardrail caught some of the weight and stopped it from pushing him into the ground and into nothingness. And I literally had to fly. Toll roads allowed overweight. Oh, they did. Oh, I didn't know that. I had to fly to the local hospital to pick up 2 surgeons. We were there, basically spent 4 hours on scene. And I went and got 2 surgeons with their little suitcases, and they came back and they said, yeah, this guy's stuck in his truck. And I went, okay. And he goes, we may have to cut his legs off to get him out. And I was like, whoa. Well, ultimately they didn't. Ultimately, they were able to cut the vehicle up. They had a whole bunch of tow truck type vehicles in the ditch on the other side of the road, just pulling on this thing, trying to remove some of the weight. There were like 4 or 5 trucks over there just trying to remove some of that. They finally got him out. But all these people were saying, "Oh, that company's going to get sued because they did this." It's like it wasn't their fault. This whole wreck was because this jackass drove around the pilot cars. And the reason I know this is there were a bunch of witnesses to it, and the police were walking around talking to people, and I was, as the pilot with nothing better to do, I was wandering around listening in to the conversation. And it was 100% the pickup truck driver's fault. But it's making the tow company, the haul company look bad. You haul flatbed, toll roads allowed overweight. That's cool. Yeah, I guess if you're paying to be on the road, you might as well. Yeah, I go to pains to avoid toll roads because some places you can't, but running from Toledo to Cleveland on 80 is like $38. I'm like, yeah, no. So I go up along the coast road. I think it's 2 paid by the 1,000. Yeah. Something I just read the other day, and this knocked me sideways. New York loves their toll roads and their toll bridges. Did you know the state of New York collects toll at the rate of $300,000 per hour? At this point, shouldn't the entire interstate system in New York be paid with gold at $300,000 an hour? Shouldn't they be gold covered roads as opposed to roads that look like artillery's been landing on it all day? How can you earn, just not taxes, just tolls? How can you make $300,000 an hour and have the roads be like they are out there? I don't understand that. There we go. That stunned me when I heard that. And here's the worst part. My cousin works for the New York State Thruway. He's one of the supervisors. So I asked him, what's going on with this? He goes, oh, I don't know. That caught me off guard. I do remember when I was a kid, remember the interstate systems got built in the 1950s under Eisenhower. In New York, because, New York, California, they're really into taxes. Even though taxes were paying for the roads, they decided to make a special bond that said, we need to put up toll roads to pay for this. So they voted it in, and it said, for 30 years, we have to collect tolls to pay for the stuff that we've already paid for with tax dollars and taxes. So they signed it into law. They got a 30-year bond in 1955, and then 1985 rolls around, and they go, okay, you can shut the toll roads down, and the state goes, well, we're kind of addicted to all this free money we get, so we're just going to leave these up forever. Just we'll just run forever. And eventually, to save money for themselves, they put in automated tolls. There's no longer a person there, so you're just getting a bill in the mail. That's what it was voted on. Oh, of course they went up. They they got this thing talking about tolls. They got this thing going on in Houston. They have a toll road. It was Beltway 8, and then they have a new one called 99. They build, and they have what's called Easy Pass. And they go, oh, you get your Easy Pass, and you don't have this. And something they don't give you. They don't send you a bill in the mail. They won't do it. You can't set it up on a credit card. The only way you can use Easy Pass is if they can reach into your bank account. And there is a grand total of nobody I allow to reach into my bank account. But if there's all these people that demand, oh no, we don't take credit cards. We need to have access to your bank. You could bite my ass. You're not getting into my bank account. Well, about 3 years ago, Easy Pass, they're charging all this money, taking all this money from people. It's not a government agency, it's a private company. They've got all these stupid people that signed up to allow the government, allow this company to reach into your bank account, take money out. They woke up one day and said, hey, we're going to double the price of tolls. So people paying whatever a month, I don't know, $100, $50, they doubled. Now, if you're doing business with a private company and you have a problem with a bill, you call them and sort the bill out. If you're working with a private company and they have reached into your bank account and extracted money from it, they're not real talkative. They're not overly interested in answering your phone call. They're not terribly interested in adjusting the payment or fixing the problem. They've already got your money, so they don't really care. That's why there is no entity that has access to my bank account. Oh, we'll give you a discount if you auto bill it to your bank account. Yeah, that's great. No. Go over the scales and poop on the floor. Another thing I like about expediting, my gross on this van is 9,070. I am under 10,000 pounds, and all that CDL stuff doesn't apply to me. I don't have logbooks. I don't go to weigh stations. I get ignored. Uh, I am completely ignored by DOT. And I have put, let's see, 60,000 miles on this van. My last van, I put 180. So there's 240,000 miles of driving, and I've never been pulled over. I've never been bothered. They just leave me alone. Uh, I have a satellite GPS, and I have I run Waze. I run both on my, depending on what I'm doing. And you can program them to avoid tolls. And there's that one road that goes through West Virginia where they get you, where you're channeled through the mountains and you can't really go around it. Whoa. Like that was flying the road. And they hit you 3 times. One highway, they spread them out. They hit you 3 times. And I think it was 20, last time I went through, it was like $21. Well, I told my GPS, don't, avoid this. How could you do it? And it literally gets me, the van. I get off the highway before the toll road, and I drive through residential neighborhoods and pop out on the other side and continue. I can actually do that in this van. And I found out, I hate paying that. I hate going home and having a stack of toll bills in the van. That drives me bonkers. But if you're going to come out, if you're going to start expediting or start truck driving, make sure you're okay with this job. You might think on paper, yeah, I can do that, but you want to get out here and drive somebody else's vehicle, work for somebody else, and make sure this is what you want to do. Because if you go out here and spend the money, and then you find out this isn't your thing, you've got a bunch of money invested in a vehicle. So what are you going to do? And I have a guy about a month and a half ago. I was parked at a pilot in Morgantown, West Virginia. I was there over the weekend, and the guy parked next to me. His name is Jeff. Started BSing with him, and he's an expediter, or was operating under his own authority, and he has a YouTube channel called Expedited Journey. He is into what you and I call frisbee golf, but it's called disc golf. And he goes out, he plays tournaments, and his daughter goes with him. I mean, whether or not that's your sport is your thing, but it's exercise. He gets out, he gets to hang out with his teenage daughter. They get to have fun together. It's kind of cool. And he talked about that a lot. And he posts videos and he talks about expediting a lot, but it's called Expedited Journey. And I started talking to him and talking about the driving for yourself, driving under your own authority. I contract with a company. I have their MC number on my door. They find my loads and they pay for my loaded insurance, which is extremely expensive. Well, Jeff was doing his own thing. He was paying his loaded insurance, his empty insurance, at his own MC number, and was dispatching his own loads, which of course pays more, but he was also paying about $300. Grab a birthday card for the mail. Oh, do it, mister. Go do your thing. Thought you said mall, and that caught me. I said mall. They still have those. Uh, he's also paying $300 a month to be on load boards because they're not free. And then he ran into something I had never even thought about. He's not getting paid. He's just this independent one guy, and he goes and makes the load, and they go, "Oh yeah, we pay you within 3 business days. We pay you in 5 business days. We pay you when we get around." So they would owe him money for weeks. These broker companies, because he's an individual person, they don't have to care. And I was like, "Dude, that sucks." And he goes, "Yeah, I'm sitting at home. I need to go make money, but I can't go make money because I don't have any money to pay for gas to go make money, but they won't pay me for the money." He gets caught in this thing. So what he ended up doing is he asked about this company that I'm with. And I said, "We get paid on Friday like clockwork. So tomorrow, I get paid tomorrow like clockwork. Everything you put in, 0 dark 30 on Monday morning until midnight on Sunday comes on the next Friday check." And it's been consistent. He says, "Well, I like the sound of that." So he ended up turning in his MC number and then coming on board with us. And now he drives with us, and he he pigeonholed himself a little bit because he lives in North Carolina, and he wants to kind of stay close to home, and he wants to be home on weekends. He does a lot of stuff with his church, which kind of pigeonholes you a little bit when you're restricting your area and your time you're willing to drive. But I've been talking to him on the phone. He's getting loads and he's bouncing around. He's getting money and he's happy. And like I said, Friday's payday. So he's not paying his loaded insurance. He's not paying load boards, and he's getting paid on time. I mean, that's why I like driving my own van for another company. And the dispatchers are really good. The company I drive for is out of Toledo, and they bought, I would say merged or bought another dispatch company in North Carolina. So they say it's our company of the Carolinas, and I have their phone number. And they get me loads from down there, and they're real good. Wow, that's a fancy looking trailer. Huh. They get me loads from down there too. And there's just one woman down there named Chrissy, and I did a drop in South Carolina, and she goes, I call her as soon as I close my load out. I call and go, "Okay, did you get my paperwork? What do you got? Is there anything going on?" And she says, "I don't have anything right now, but I have stuff coming in constantly. I'll call you when I get one." I said, "All right, cool." And I hung up the phone. 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi. She calls me and says, "I got a load." That was great. That's how fast this business moves. The former home of Champion Spark Plugs and the home of Maxwell Q. Klinger, where his favorite Bud Hens play. And ironically, Jamie Farr is actually from Toledo, which I thought was funny. But that's where our head office is. Occasionally I pass through though I can drop off my paperwork so I don't have to mail it. And they also have showers and laundry there. If I'm in the area, I'll stop and sleep in the parking lot and use their machines, which is kind of convenient. I want to buy a birthday card. Man, I haven't bought a birthday card in so long. Whew. I'm sitting here thinking about it. When was the last time I had a birthday card? Oof. Anyway, I'm trying to bug the head shed right now. I want to go. I want to go home. I want to get to Texas and spend a little time at the house. So I keep bugging them about getting me a Texas run. Nothing yet. They're running Laredo. They have quite a bit of traffic going to Laredo. There's literally nothing coming back out, but that drive down there could literally pay for the week. So I could drive down there and deadhead back to the house. I've done it a couple times now. It's a little situation. This van has that system that tells you when you need to change your oil to 38%. And I do have an entire oil change on board I can do. Which former home of champion spark plugs, no kid. When I bought this van, that's one of the things I did was I changed the spark plugs. Man, they do not make vehicles like they used to. You just reach in there and pop your plugs out. This one, we had to take the manifold off to get at it. Just halfway disassemble the vehicle. Yeah, you drive out of the head shed, you go north a very short distance. Within about 3 minutes, you're out of the state. You're in Michigan. It's right there on the border. It is 63 degrees outside, and I'm glad it's colder. I prefer it colder. I like cold weather. Not have to worry about air conditioning and sweat. So I went to bed last night and I cracked my driver passenger window open about 3 inches and I put my blinders up. And as it got colder, I'm under a heavy crochet blanket and it started getting cold. So I turn the key on, reach up and close one window to stop circulation, and go back to sleep. A little while later, it's getting cold again. So I turn the key on and I raise the other window and I go back to sleep. But about 3 o'clock in the morning, I woke up and I was cold under the blanket. So I had to break out my official summertime sleeping bag that has never been out of the package. I used my sleep bag for the very first time last night. And it worked. It bundles up really small. My wintertime sleeping bag is huge and it's very bulky. So I took it out. This was starting to get annoying. But last night was the first night I've ever taken it out of the bag and it did its job. And it's very flexible. I was able to shove it back in the bag again, so I'm good to go. So I may hold on to that because it's so small. And when it gets really cold, you get in the sleeping bag and you bring the blanket with you. Double down. But when I got up and checked my phone, it was 40 something degrees. And again, I prefer it cold, so no problems there. The rest area coming up. When I stopped at that last one, I took on water. They didn't have the container of water filler I needed, but I got filled up my big jug halfway, so this will keep going for a while. Blech. My mother texted me a moment ago, and she knows that I stream, and she's supposed to check that before she texts me. Anybody tuning in from overseas? We are southwest bound out of Cleveland. That's what this terrain is showing you right here. Highway 71 south. And I like shooting streaming in the mornings when the sun is not in your face, but it makes the terrain look more interesting. So I'm always curious because I've had people on here from Ethiopia, India, Berlin, Ukraine, New Zealand. I had one guy tune in and he said, I bet you can't, I bet you don't know where I'm tuning in from. I said, all right, try me. And he said, alert. ALERT, alert. And I said, extreme northern Canada inside the Arctic Circle. And he was taken aback that I knew that. There was a little tiny military base. Oh, got a call. Got to take it. Okay, you guys, I don't know if you guys can hear that, but I've already got my next load lined up. That was quick. I'm dropping off. I'm going to be dropping off today around noon, and picking up a load and going down to Louisville. Whether or not I get stuck in Louisville over the weekend is to be seen, but I'm going down to Louisville today. So they're going to keep me moving. That's what mileage. 21.3. And it wasn't paying really well. 270. That's not a real good rate, but I'd rather be getting paid a mediocre rate than not getting paid at all. You know what I mean? We look at something here. All right, I'm back. Sorry. Anyway, that's the interesting. I don't know. Again, anybody that was on, did you hear that conversation? Can you hear him when he calls? Or was that just me talking to myself there for a second? I'm curious if anybody can hear that. Because I don't know how this system works, if the phone call stops on this. Somebody let me know. But today is three, no, 173, 74. Yeah, it's about a 500 something dollar day. That's not bad. There's all kinds of rules about driving a van, for driving, period. You get on these big hills and there's actually signs that says coasting is illegal. You know, you're trying to save fuel. So you kick it out of gear and let momentum carry you downhill. Guess what? I do it all the time. Get your transmission out of the equation and let momentum carry it. As a matter of fact, right now we are drifting. Yeah, anybody listening? Did you hear that phone call I just had? I don't know if you guys can hear it or not. I'm kind of curious. Back in 21.3. Yeah, picked up a tenth. So I got to drop this around noon. Then I got to go 60 miles for a pickup to take just under 300 miles to Louisville. Which means I need to call, let them know I'm going to be Louisville over the weekend, which uh, I'm probably going to get stuck. Well, if I get stuck, that means I'm going to go find a museum or two, but we'll see what happens. Oof. Everybody has their addiction. Mine happens to be a drink. There's really nothing to it. It's a brand called Liquid Death, and it's just water. It's flavored water, and they have one that's not flavored. It's called Still Water, and it's just mountain water. And I don't know why, but for me it seems to taste different. I don't know if it's because it's refrigerated inside of an aluminum can or what, but that's kind of my soda, even though there's literally nothing in it other than water, but I like it. The Pilot Flying J sells it, but more recently, I can't help but notice most stores don't have it in stock, and I don't know why. But this morning, when I got up, this one had it, so I had to grab my morning addiction. Oh, truck parking. Yeah, that's an ongoing battle. That sign says truck parking. There is not enough places to park trucks. Remember, they can only drive for 11 hours. So when their electronic clock is ticking, they got to be able to pull off, and there's nowhere to park. There's not enough spaces in a rest area. There's not enough spaces at a truck stop. I mean, there's not enough spaces. So this off to the right here, that is a truck parking area where they just designate a piece of unused dirt, and they allow people to park their vehicles there, but they have to. Some of the newer truck stops, like they do in Nevada, they make truck parking that goes on for days, which is a really good idea. Because you know they're making money just off fuel sales alone when those trucks come in there. Oof. But that's probably the best advantage of driving the van is, again, it's not a CDL job, and I can park anywhere. I could take this to the grocery store. I can take it home. I can drive anywhere I need to drive it, and that's a big thing. When people think about truck driving, they think about being out here on the open road holding the steering wheel. They're not thinking about all the dirty work. They're not thinking about parking at night or being at the shipper receiver and fighting around the dock areas and getting loading and stuff. That's the unfun part. Standing in line out in the rain with a dispatch person or the receiver who thinks he's important and he's going to make you wait because he can, because he's important now. It's just you got to deal with that. Wow. Still on 71 South, by the way. Relays. 21.4, I think, miles per gallon. I think this van is feeling the weight of this. Well, I got 1,800 pounds in here. Juice and sweetie bar. Oh, that's there. All right. When I run the streams, I go about an hour, and then I got to make all my phone calls. So we're coming up on the hour mark. I'm gonna let you guys go. I'm gonna come back in later if some interesting stuff goes down. Take care.